Welcome to Lord of Maps. I'm glad you could join me today. I'll be teaching you how to draw mountains in a fun fantasy style that will add a little bit of magic to any drawing that you do. I love mountains, they're probably my favorite element to draw, and I think you'll find out why. So come join me, pull up a piece of paper and a pen, or just relax for the next few minutes as I show you how. Well, let's jump right in, shall we? I'm just going to draw a mountain at first with a zero instruction, and then I'll kind of break down the different elements. Just so I don't keep you guys in suspense for too long. You've been waiting through that kind of awkward introduction. As I'm drawing these mountains, I'm very careful to think about the angles of these hypothetical ridges. I follow these angles to give the illusion of shadow. While these mountains don't have too much depth to them, you'd be surprised at how far a few little etching lines can go in deceiving the eye. And if you can't really see too well because of my hand, that's all right. I'll show a tighter shot. Finishing up this last little peak. Behold. And so just as a refresher, I'm using a very simple pen, one that's not expensive. It's pretty much entry level for anyone. You can find it at Walmart or Office Depot or really anywhere. It's a pretty popular pen. It's just black. If you don't like this pen, if you prefer something a little bit fancier, then that's totally okay. I'm kind of a simple guy, so I use simple instruments. But take a look at this mountain. You know, you can see how it fools your eye a little bit. If you squint, it's like, wow, am I looking at a real mountain, or is this some sort of illusion? And that's the goal you're going for. So let me do a little bit of a close up, and then I'll show you how to draw it and how you can just invent certain peaks and really have freedom to move mountains. Here's the tight shot that I promised you. If you look a little bit closer, the illusion can kind of fail you a little bit. Like they say, a lot of great art is appreciated from a step back. But I wasn't basing this off of a real mountain. I was just thinking in my brain and let my hand do the work of just potentially, little peaks, big peak, one peak behind the other. And it's just a real blast to be able to make stuff up. So let's show you how I do it, and let's get to a better angle so my hand isn't covering everything. Now this is the teacher's angle. You can see exactly what I'm doing. And so let's jump right in. Let's get started. So what I like to do, first off, with the position of how you hold your pen, that's going to be whatever's most comfortable for you. If you're not comfortable holding it like this, then you're really not going to come up with a result that you're happy with. So however you hold it, if you kind of caveman it or do the simple 3-point touch or whatever, just do whatever makes you feel most comfortable as you're drawing. I start from the left to the right. If I were left-handed, I'd probably do opposite. But I tend to make some of these angles a little bit sloping as I go up. And I'm putting a decent amount of pressure so I don't get any breakage. And notice that each little peak is its own line. And I'm just making it up. And you can do that. It's your little world. Maybe there's a peak right here, and a peak even higher behind there, and then a little bit smaller one, like Sister Peaks or something. Imagine you're creating your own little world. It's your rules, you get to do whatever you want. So this is long range. So I'm just following kind of this motion. I'm going slide up, slide down, slide up, slide down. And I'm building on each individual one. There's not one individual peak. It's not a volcano, although you can do a volcano. But doesn't that look a little bit lonely? You know, of course you can add some friends to this guy. Make him look a little bit more interesting. Maybe this left side's looking a bit naked. You can add some depth there. Looks a little bit more charming. But there's really no right or wrong way to do this. It takes a little bit of practice to get the movement of drawing the mountains, but you'll figure it out. I try to do it in one fluid motion per peak. Okay, let's talk about shading. Shading is really where your mountains take form. You know, you see these are fun, but you start adding shading, and they come alive. You get that depth, as if maybe one side is covered in snow and the other side's covered in shadow, or just the sun's hitting it just right and it's lighting all those stones. What I like to do, and what I've found works best for me, is I don't shade completely black. I used to do that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I actually appreciate these little gaps in between because it gives a little bit more detail, makes it just a touch more interesting. But you do your maps and your mountains however way you like. But let's start on the far left. And so I'm just doing these little touches, trying to keep with that angle, not perfectly parallel to that outer angle. It's not that important. You don't have to be pulling out a protractor or stressing too much. But I try to keep these lines parallel as I'm going down. And I taper off down at the bottom. It doesn't have to stop right where that line stops. So just add more and more lines. Keep it parallel. Maybe I extend this one down just a little bit further. What the heck? So you can hear the laundry machine is done. Perfect timing. All right. Let's keep going. I used to stress so much about my mountains, and it seems like the more you stress, the more people can tell that you've stressed. It doesn't look as natural. It doesn't look as pleasing to the eye. This one's a little bit softer, so I'm going to kind of lengthen those little etchings, give it some variety. This one, this mighty mountain, I'm going to do it a little bit tighter so it's a little bit darker. And this is the mighty peak. This is the Grand Teton, or the Mount Elbert, or whatever mountain you choose. Mount Olympus. Perhaps that'd be better for the volcano example. But I keep going, and it's really a test of patience, because the moment you start making your lines not as parallel as earlier on, people notice it. They're like, got a little bit sloppy. But be sure to keep a lighter outer edge, because that gives the illusion of light. And then your lines can get bigger and bigger, and then taper off. We're rounding third base, we're headed home. All right, just like that. Isn't that amazing? Did you think you'd be able to do something like that? It's kind of fun, isn't it? You can see how how you're quickly getting the idea of building mountain ranges, and hopefully in your mind you can think of ways that you could fill up a whole page. And I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to test it out, to get a blank piece of paper and just cover it in mountains. That's how I learned. All right, let's take a look at this guy. This guy began a little bit awkward, a little bit just this lonely mountain. We got this big front-facing mountain, whereas these ones have kind of cut off a little bit. There's things behind it. So let's do something a little bit interesting. Let's make this, let's give this a little bit of variety. So I'm going to start at the top, but I'm not starting at the very end. Notice that. What am I doing? I'm going crazy. But you can add multiple little shadows, as if there's that ridge right there. You can add these little bumps and grooves, however you want. Just give a little life to your mountains. Give them a little story. You know, each mountain was born in a way, with plates coming together, or lava being heaped up all over the earth. And over, millions of years, they've got character. They've got little bumps, they've got grooves, they've got ridges, they've got high points and low points. Notice that I didn't start at the left one. I kind of broke my own rule. That's all right. Take a look at that. Do you like that? And if you don't, change it. It's your world. With your pen, pencil, or heck, even a crayon, you can do whatever you want. This is a nice tight angle where you can see some of the things that perhaps you weren't able to see in the previous. So notice that these lines stay relatively parallel. They're not going to be perfect, and that's totally okay. But notice what I'm saying. They're parallel with each other. The shading lines are relatively parallel with each other. It's important to pay attention to this outer line. Outer line, because that's your angle, right? That's the steepness of your mountain. And so you want to follow that. But if it gets a little bit off, that's okay. But if it gets too far off, you lose that illusion. Take a look at that. This one is a little bit softer hill, so I spaced out the lines. It makes it seem not as scary or as intense as these big peaks. And I've had the shading extend pretty far down. Right here, and that makes it long, right? That makes it as if the mountain extends, far, miles towards you. Here's this one. So I don't have any ridges on this front-facing one, but I was still able to add some depth to it. Take a step back, and man, your eye gets a little bit tricked. Even further, holy smokes. And if you reduce the resolution on this video, it's even more believable. It looks just like mountains have been created. Maybe you're saying to yourself, Isaac, that was too quick. I still don't understand. That was just, man, I'm lost. Don't worry. I'm going to give you another example that perhaps will make things a little bit easier. So let's start at the very beginning, which is a really good place to start. For me, I start at the very left. I'm going to put it down on the paper, and I'm going to swing up, and then I'm going to swing down. And you know what? You can add some grooves. If you've got a shaky hand, that's good for a change. If you go up here, start at the top, up and down. Okay, well, where's this next little peak gonna live? I think it's gonna live right here. Up and then down. Okay. How about this next one? Let's do it a little bit lower, because the mountain needs to flatten out somewhere. And then another one. Let's do one that's maybe not as steep. Oh, that's a round one. Holy smokes. Those are like the mountains in Centerville, Utah. So you see that? It's like they're stacking on each other, as if these are all just triangles that have been built up on each other. Now for simple shading, let's go in here. Let's start at the end, kind of this corner. And keep those lines parallel to each other and relatively parallel to that outer line. And then you're going to follow down. It's okay for the shading to go lower than this outer line, but it's really not super normal for the shading to be above that outer line. But once you know the rules, you can break them. With all great art, it's the rule breakers that push the envelope. So this mountain's a little bit bigger than I would draw normally, but I think it's good for the example. Tighter the mountain, the thickness of the pen looks a little bit better. I think I would, if I was drawing a mountain this big, I think I would use maybe a heftier pen. I'm using a 0.38. I had to order it on Amazon because they didn't have any at Walmart when I went, but maybe you'll have better luck than me. Okay. Keep these lines parallel and have fun with it. You know, imagine this is a real mountain. You know, don't lose sight of kind of the joy of drawing. You're not just drawing lines. Maybe at the end I'm gonna keep going a little bit looser here and tighter up there. I'd be holding the paper usually with my left hand to keep it from bouncing how it is right now. But for the sake of the video, let's let the paper bounce a little bit. It's a little bit tricky to do the fine details without a steadying hand, but maybe that's just my excuse. Okay, do you see that? Do you see this method of up, down, right? You know, maybe that's a little bit too perfect, but that's the idea, right? You're gonna go up, down, up, down, up, down. Yeah, that's a little bit too perfect for my eye. But you're gonna practice it, and you're gonna get better and better. You're gonna try something a little bit more fun. Skinny one. You're gonna shake it up so that every mountain doesn't look exactly the same. And then pretty soon, you'll be drawing mountains all over your house. Well, thank you for joining me. Wasn't that fun? Pretty soon you'll be able to draw mountains like these, and pretty soon you'll be able to draw mountains far better than mine, and you'll reach out to me and say, Isaac, man, I gotta teach you something or two. And I hope you do. I hope you show me your progress. I'm not really sure how that would work in the comments below, but you can follow me on Instagram and send me a message and say, hey, look at this. Look at these mountains. Look how much I've improved. And I hope you stick with me next time, because I've just shown you a glimpse of the map making process. I haven't shown you what ranges look like, or what trees look like, or different types of mountains. So if that doesn't pique your interest, who knows what will. But thank you again, and stay tuned for next time.